Tonight on News 5 Live, a tragic weekend across the country as COVID-19 continues to spike and the death toll mounts. An official funeral is held for Corzal Bay Representative David Vega, and a pair of twin brothers, both medical doctors from Cayo, falls to the dreaded illness in the line of duty. And a fatal traffic accident in Pomona claims the life of a 64-year-old. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call on-net, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Changes that 2020 has brought upon us, this holiday season is unlike any other. But despite all those changes, this year has taught us that being apart doesn't mean we can't stay connected. And that's why here at Channel 5, we adapted to keep you connected with relevant and reliable information and entertainment, as we've done for the past 29 years. And so as we move into the new year with new norms, we promise to continue being here for you through it all. From our family here at Channel 5 to yours, we wish you health, peace, and happiness this season and beyond. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live from Monday, December 4th. I am Marlene Cuellar. It was a solemn afternoon in Corozal town, across the country and within the People's United Party, as the man affectionately known as the Gentle Giant was laid to rest. An official funeral was held earlier today for recently elected PUP Corozal Bay Area Representative David Dido Vega this afternoon. Vega died on Friday morning, hours before he was supposed to be sworn in along with his colleagues as a parliamentarian. He had lost the battle with COVID-19, succumbing from complications at Belize Healthcare Partners. News 5's Hippolyta Novello reports.
An official funeral for David Dido Vega was held this afternoon at the Mount Calvary Cemetery in Corozal town. The 47-year-old recently elected Corozal Bay Area Representative died from COVID-19 complications on Friday morning, hours before he was scheduled to take the oath of allegiance of office. Vega was hospitalized for more than a week, but the well-known son of the Bay and math teacher could no longer keep on fighting. And because he didn't take the oath on Friday, an official funeral instead of a state funeral was held in his memory today. A group of men in hazmat suits carried the casket into the tomb while Vega's family, the Prime Minister, opposition leader and other political colleagues and friends said their last goodbyes. And one of those close friends was Gilvano Swayze, who read the eulogy for the man dubbed as the Gentle Giant.
At first, people didn't know D. He had been away for so long. He lost his first convention by only 12 votes. After many years of pursuing and overcoming many obstacles, he finally won the general elections by 408 votes on November 11, 2020. The people of Corozal Town Bay were so happy. The Gentle Giant had won, and they had big hopes in him. A few days before his birthday, which was on December 5th, he fell ill. He tested positive for COVID-19. He battled with this deadly disease, and many people were praying and were concerned. On the 11th December, exactly 1 month after his victory at the polls, he was called by our Creator, who saw that he was suffering.
Vega's political brother in the North, Florencio Marin Jr., read the government's official remembrance, during which he highlighted Vega's mathematical skills and passion to make a difference.
In the year 2014, I remember Dido coming to me to say he was ready to enter the political field. I asked him, Dido, you sure? This rough, you know. He told me, Deputy, I am as sure as the time I wanted my bachelor's degree. I had no money. I saved enough for a one-way ticket to Florida and went and just parked in front of the university. I asked him again, and he repeated the same story. From then, I was convinced that he had that drive, that inner strength, the right material to be a PUP standard bearer and one who would deliver for us. He did return successfully with his bachelor's degree. Dido had a gift, a mathematical mind. I remember during the counting for the last municipal elections, like about 20 minutes afterwards, he texted me, we are going to win. I was skeptical, and so I called him. I said, I called him, and he said, I am in the counting room, and I am 99.6% sure we will win. Upon hearing that, I was celebrating already. Dido told me that. That's good for me. This skill he repeated for several village council elections in my area. I remember another time he was in the counting room, and he called me early. He said, we win, Deputy. That's all I needed to know. He said this young man said that he went to Teacher Dido and asked him for help. Dido, knowing full well that this young man's parents were UDP supporters, he did not hesitate. He immediately gave an assistance for the school fees. The student said, Teacher Zene, we really needed that help. Of course, I will vote for him. No man stands so tall as when he stoops to help the less fortunate. David Dido Vega was a tall and a giant man.
But a man nonetheless whose body couldn't successfully fight off the COVID-19 virus. He was a humble man, easy to connect with, charismatic and inspiring. His friend, Home Affairs Minister Karim Musa, says Dido's vision must be realized.
For years, Dido Vega built a political movement in Corozal Bay based on two big ideas: the community first and the youths at the table of power. Dido was a mathematician with an incalculable love for people. His work as a teacher established his credibility among the young, and he harnessed their aspirations into the work of nation building. So, his victory on November 11, 2020 was not just a Dido Vega or a PUP win, but a victory to shape a better society. Your brother was a fighter like no other, a champion like no other. We owe it to the gentle giant to keep our appointment with history. We must work together to deliver on his dream, new hope for the Bay. I end with how he ended all of his phone calls with me. Okay, hermano, we stay so. Rest in peace, warrior of the Bay, Dido Vega.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
Meanwhile, Vega's wife, Ingrid, remains hospitalized. She too contracted the deadly disease that ultimately took her husband's life. On Saturday, she was rushed to the Belize Healthcare Partners in Belize City, where she is listed in a critical condition. At Vega's funeral this afternoon, Home Affairs Minister Karim Musa asked for prayers for the Vega family.
Today, we gather in the community of Dido Vega. We gather thinking of his dear wife, Ingrid, who is in the hospital fighting the dreaded COVID-19. We gather thinking about Brianna and Kelsey, Dido and Ingrid's beautiful daughters. We are people of faith, and we come here humbly asking for your strength and guidance as the Vega family endures this unimaginable pain.
Over the weekend, twin doctors Kevin and Kenneth Guerra died within hours of each other from complications associated with the novel coronavirus. The siblings, who were frontline workers in health facilities in the West and South, were intubated before their untimely passing. On Sunday afternoon, they were laid to rest in their hometown of Benque Viejo del Carmen before family members and friends. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
A funeral service, although abruptly carried out due to the COVID-19 protocols, was held less than 24 hours after a pair of twin doctors from Benque Viejo del Carmen succumbed to the virus over the weekend. Residents gathered along the highway leading to the cemetery as the bodies of siblings doctors Kevin and Kenneth Guerra were escorted by police and the fire truck and taken by Koyi's funeral home in matching coffins to their resting place in the town.
Like I was going to get crazy. It's so sad, no?
Yeah.
After so many years of study, they're starting to enjoy their profession. You know? Very hard, very sad for the family.
Yeah. The fact that we are cousins and part of the family member. And it's a very sad, as I said, it's a sad day for the constituency, a sad day for Benque. You know, and for the family especially. Very sad.
The identical twins, both 33 years old, were doctors working within the health system at the Independence Polyclinic in the south and at the San Ignacio Community Hospital in the west. They formed an integral part of the team of frontline workers in the fight against the pandemic and themselves became victims of the virus, leaving behind their families and loved ones. Kevin died on Saturday afternoon after being intubated at the KHMH. At that time, Kenneth was also intubated and was in need of A-positive blood from a person who had recently recovered from COVID-19. 18 hours later, Kenneth also died from complications related to the virus.
This guy was there were doctors and they were fighting for people who are sick now. But people don't understand what's going on. Now 2 doctors sorry for here for help people believe. They're gone and it's a waste. If you're not sick, just go and tell everybody I'm sick. Yeah. Because you don't know if their family or their person have a kid, small kid, a mom, everything, they're living together. And this must happen. You could kill a kid, you could kill a mother, you could kill a whole family. Yeah. This is nothing to play. It's nothing to play with.
My sympathy, right now, is my friends, my doctors. Yeah. When I was sick, my doctor attended me, and he, being my friend and my doctor, he told me my sickness and gave me the pills and the injection for my sickness, and I am here right now. Yeah. That is why I come to give him my sympathy, because he's more than my doctor, he's my brother.
The brothers were buried with Verdes Junior Club jerseys.
We retired that number because he used to be part of the Verdes Juniors Club where we do after I left Verdes. So he was one of the man where asked me for me to join this team, so I did it. So now that the man dead, things where Verdes never did for me, retire number 6. So I tell the owner of the Verdes Juniors Club, make them retire number 6. The number where I used to use in Verdes and with this team. So from today onwards, number 6 won't be used never again, and number 14 won't be used never again.
Health and Wellness Minister Michelle Shabat attended the funeral. He says it's a sad day for the entire country.
Our condolences go to the entire family and all the families who have lost loved ones. It's a very sad day for everyone.
So, Minister, how do you feel at this moment?
It's a very sad moment, Mr. Pandey, for everybody. Very sad for everybody across the country and the families here who are suffering.
It's a very sad day for the constituency of Kai West, all the residents, especially the family. We have lost 2 great doctors in the constituency of Kai West.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
A motorcade was held last evening in remembrance of brothers Kevin and Kenneth Guerra. In the wake of their passing, their colleagues in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, as well as the Belize Medical and Dental Association, quickly put together a tribute to the doctors with a convoy of ambulances leading the way. In Belize City, as well as other parts of the country, the parade of vehicles and lights was well received as many lined the streets to pay homage to the frontline health workers. News 5's Isani Cayetano has that story.
A procession of ambulances made its way through Belize City on Sunday evening as bystanders lined both sides of the streets. The motorcade, organized by the Ministry of Health and Wellness as well as the Belize Medical and Dental Association, was held in honor of a pair of fallen siblings. It was also a show of solidarity within the medical profession that those on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19 are not alone.
We are here together as a wider community to mourn the passing of 2 of our fallen frontline heroes, Doctors Kevin and Kenneth Guerra. We, the Ministry of Health, along with the BMDA, the wider private and public health community, wanted to do something to symbolize our support for our doctors who have passed away and for their family, their immediate family, as well as their health family at Independence Polyclinic and San Ignacio Community Hospital.
That outpouring of support within the medical fraternity continues this evening. Outside of the KHMH, doctors and nurses have come together to memorialize the siblings. It's a massive loss and a brutal reminder of just how deadly this virulent illness is.
I started to think of this memorial because, while we knew that they were ventilated and everything, their death was still so sudden, and it was a huge loss for us in the medical community and those who were close to them. of course, they had the motorcade yesterday, you know, and who could have come out to light their candles came out. However, it just felt rushed to me, and I wanted a place where all of our colleagues can come and pay a tribute to them, an honor to them. You know, they're heroes, and they died in the line of duty, in the line of service to their communities. They have touched so many lives. Like, it's amazing, you know, the support that has come from all this, because so many people knew them, and everybody has good stories to tell about them.
The Guerra twins are the first to fall to COVID-19 on the healthcare front. The tragic loss comes amid a ballooning of cases across the country and a mounting mortality rate to boot.
To date, in Belize, we have lost over 190 persons to the dreaded COVID. And this only highlights to us even more so that the response that we need has to be a multi-sectoral response. It has to come from the community on a whole, and we're asking you all over the country to join together to fight against COVID-19. Practice your public health measures as best as possible, and let us join together in force against COVID-19.
Dr. Shana Putt, an organizer of the memorial outside of the KHMH, is herself a doctor on the front lines. Despite an abundance of caution, she too is exposed to COVID-19 by way of her profession.
I work directly with COVID patients, so I take every precaution that I can take. You know, I work with them along with Dr. Tanya Marijon, and we are very careful in everything that we do. But still, you know, there is always room for something to go wrong, and it's very scary to see. You know, they're the first doctors. We've had doctors who have become infected already, but they're the first ones who have died due to COVID-19. And so, of course, it's a very scary situation. As the number rises each day, we just have to keep fighting. We have to do it. We're out there. This is the job that we chose. And we can only do our best. But of course, it is a scary situation. And so we just have to be more cautious and be more mindful of everything that we're doing, and we can't afford to slip up.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
A total of 122 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed on Sunday evening, following the processing of 408 tests that were done. The daily report for December 13th also indicates that 3 persons lost their battle to the dreaded illness, bringing the number of casualties thus far to 195. The number of active COVID-19 cases now stands at 4,779 cases. In other news on COVID-19, the Pan American Health Organization PAHO and the World Health Organization is donating 100 pulse oximeters to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. A little under 300 police officers are off duty due to COVID-related issues. Of that number, 144 have tested positive for the virus. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams tells us more.
We have up to this morning 298 officers out. Of those 298, 144 are positive and the others are awaiting results. So that is where we are.
Are there still the rapid test still being administered to your officers?
Yes, rapid test is still being administered. It's just that there is still an issue where we are being told that where the rapid test is negative, that the officers still need to do a PCR test. So once they do the PCR test, my instruction is that they are not to come to work until the result of that PCR is back. So that is our hold up for that.
Coming up, the Belize Police Department introduces a COVID task force.
It was the
There is a shooting incident in Belize City on Friday night that has left 2 men hospitalized. Police say that the men were socializing when the shooter attacked them. Senior Superintendent Alberto Romero says that the gun violence is believed to be the result of a feud between 2 gangs.
There was a shooting on Lakeview Street, Belize City, where 2 persons were shot. Information is that they were hanging in a yard when a male person came and fired shots over a fence. The 2 victims are Francis Norberto and Kent Flores. They received injuries to the body and were taken to the KHMH. They are presently in a stable condition. We are seeking 1 suspect in regards to this shooting.
Any motive you're investigating, sir?
Rivalry between groups in that area.
A hit-and-run accident has left an elderly Pomona resident dead. Police say that 64-year-old Israel Argueta was riding his bike on Saturday night when a vehicle struck him from behind just before 7:30. The cops are now asking the public to assist with the investigation to identify the driver of the vehicle. Here's more from ACP Joseph Maivet.
Guerra police were called to an area between miles 8 and 9 on the Stann Creek Valley Road, where they observed the apparent lifeless body of Israel Argueta, 64 years, on the side of the highway when traveling north, and a short distance away from him was a bicycle that was damaged. What the police know so far, that Argueta was traveling northbound on his bicycle when he was hit from behind by a vehicle, causing his fatal injuries. Police are investigating this matter at this time and are seeking the public's assistance of anyone who has any information that can assist us in this investigation to come forward, as so far we have been unable to locate the vehicle or get a proper description of the vehicle or the driver.
Meanwhile, a man in Orange Walk is recovering from injuries sustained in a motorcycle accident on Saturday night. Police say that David Furr of Shipyard lost control of his motorbike around 7:15 that night, and it landed him in the hospital.
Orange Walk police were called to the Northern Regional Hospital, where they observed one David Furr with apparent injuries, and he was being treated and was in a critical condition. What we know so far is that Furr was traveling on a motorcycle in the area of Camp 23 Shipyard when he apparently lost control of his motorcycle and ran into a barbed wire fence, which caused him several injuries. He is still at the Northern Regional Hospital, where he is now in a stable condition.
Police arrested more than 100 persons over the weekend for violating the quarantine regulations. The offenses ranged from failure to wear a mask to breaking social distancing rules, to breach of curfew, and hosting or attending a restricted event. Commissioner Chester Williams gave the media an update on the arrests.
The police continue to crack down on those persons who continue to defy the quarantine regulations. Over the weekend, we had, I think, 107 arrests for different offenses, including 7 for hosting a restricted event. And when I say restricted event, it simply means that they were hosting parties. We have a number of persons arrested for breach of curfew, a number of persons arrested for failure to wear face masks. The police is going to continue to do what we can with a view to ensure that we assist the Ministry of Health to reduce the number of daily infections.
And so with all those violations, that brings us to the Belize Police Department's response moving forward. Today, Commissioner Williams told the press that they are taking sort of a different direction. That is, they are employing new strategies to deal with lawbreakers in an effort to stem the rising cases of COVID-19. So, to start off, they have activated a task force for each of the different policing regions. The task force will be responsible for solely policing the quarantine regulations. In an interview with the media today, William shared how the task force will operate.
Today I have tasked each of the formation commanders to put together a COVID task force. The COVID task force is going to be a team of police officers who are going to focus within each of the different formations on the enforcement of the quarantine regulations. So they will be moving around, including the villages, looking for violations with a view to see how we can deal with those persons who continue to defy and put us all at risk.
Sir, when will the task force be activated?
That will be today. I have given instruction. I will go on to put that in place effective today.
Who makes up the task force, and just for some clarity, their responsibility is it just receiving these calls and going out to investigate or sending out officers?
The task force will be made of police officers from different units, and I'm going to ensure that we have GSU among the task force. Again, with a view to ensure there is strict compliance. And, you know, people have the tendency of doing illegal things, and when police come to deal with the situation, they act away and start to make noise and start a video and get the public on their side against the police. We're not going to take heed to that. We have to understand, you're doing nonsense, the police will come for you. And the task force will be specifically used to address COVID-19 regulation. That will be the only task, nothing else.
Does this take away from the number of officers that has to do the day-to-day policing on the ground?
Yes, it will take away from the number of officers that has to do the day-to-day policing. But our greatest threat right now is COVID-19. COVID-19 is a threat to our national security, it's a threat to our economy, it is a threat in every respect of our lives. And so we have to make it a priority. So even though it is going to take away from our core policing function, it is going to help us significantly to address this plaguing issue of the COVID-19 virus.
Sir, but what are you guys doing at the bus terminals? We still see significant gatherings, no regard for social distancing.
Well, that is one thing the task force is going to be dealing with as well. I have already tasked the commanders that we must look at the bus terminals, we must look at the stores, because we're getting complaints that stores are packed to capacity. We have to look at in Belize City, the seawall, and in other municipalities, the parks where people continue to go and gather and socialize in the evening time. And as well as looking at those persons who are hosting these birthday parties and these baby showers and wedding.
As the task force is activated to police the regulations, moving forward, they are looking for ways to minimize close contact with the public. One way of doing that, which will see arrests reduced, is to ticket the lawbreakers. Commissioner Williams says that he has been in discussion with the Ministers of Home Affairs and Health to determine a way forward to hold those accountable for their violations.
We have discussed the issue of making the offenses under the quarantine regulation a ticketed offense. So what we're finding out is that some of the police officers are fearful of dealing with people because of the fact that they don't know what the person's status may be. And so we believe that if we go with a ticketing system where the police just issue a ticket, it is going to allow the police to have less interaction with violators while still achieving the goal of penalizing those who continue to violate. But what I would want to see is that people begin to adhere to the regulation, not simply because they fear the police arresting them or fear of being ticketed, but rather because they know it's the right thing to do.
To complement the work that the cops are doing to help curb the spread of COVID-19 and ensure that the public complies with the regulations, Commissioner Williams says that they are also looking to activate hotlines to facilitate the reporting of violations of the quarantine regulations. Williams says that they have been inundated with reports of violations and they want to make it easier for the public and for the officers on the ground to make reports.
Is it a challenging task to identify, locate, and enforce at all these different parties taking place?
Yes, of course it is extremely difficult. The amount of calls we get on a daily basis, persons complaining about parties here and parties there, it is alarming to know that in a time like this, despite imperative evidence that this virus is deadly, that people continue not to heed to the effects of this virus. And so it is hard for us. Another thing I'll be doing, you know that we have some hotlines in Belize City that is used for border jumpers. We have 2 for BTL and 3 for Smart. I'll be speaking today to Smart and BTL to see if we can have one of the BTL line and one of the Smart line transferred from being a border jumper hotline to a restricted event hotline. So we're going to create a hotline for persons to be able to call in on those who are hosting these illegal parties all over the country. And once the information is received, then it will be trickled down to the task force within the respective formation with a view to ensure that those persons who are hosting these events are dealt with.
After the break, the Ministry of Works reviews a number of contracts, and the new Foreign Affairs building. Is it up to scratch?
or Domestic Violence Unit at 0800 A Way Out. This message was brought to you as a part of the ongoing CARSA grant with support from the U.S. Embassy.
The Ministry of Infrastructure Development, formerly Works and Housing, like other government departments, is reviewing a number of contracts awarded under the previous administration. Some of those agreements are funded by international organizations and as such are being looked over carefully. According to Minister of Works Julius Espat, 50% of those contracts have been reviewed and are before the Attorney General's ministry.
There's a lot of road contracts that we're reviewing, and additional there are contract officers contracts that we're also reviewing. Cabinet has requested that all the analysis be reviewed by the Attorney General. So we are in the process of doing our findings and then sending over to her the information that we have. Some of them are very complex because they include international funding, and so that has its own legality that goes with it. I think we are about 50% through them. The contracts, officers' contracts, some of them are how can I say, they're up already, and they have to be renewed or replaced. There are others that were signed that are due maybe in a year or 2 years' time. Those are the ones that we are sending to the AG for her to look at and approve. And then the ones that we can do in-house, we are doing. But apart from contracts, we are looking at all the supposed illegalities that happen with the misuse of the people's equipment. That one is about completed. We have gotten testimonies from a large amount of people that worked in the ministry. And we have hired the services of Andrew Marshallek to prepare an advice. And that also will be forwarded to the Attorney General for her to look at. That one is, I believe, very important because it will show how we have misused millions and millions of the people's money for personal use.
As far as the misuse of government assets for private projects, Minister Espat says that there has been sufficient evidence to confirm what was the thinking all along. Espat also says that many of the jobs within the Ministry of Works were given to relatives and friends of the previous minister.
We are more than 100% convinced with the evidence that we obtained, inclusive of equipment that we had to forcibly bring back, and testimony from employees of the Ministry of Works that were willing to put it on paper and witnessed by the Attorney General's employees and by justices of the peace.
In your ministry, perhaps much like what other complaints are from across government, are there previous appointees of the UDP government who are still there based on contracts, who perhaps are also hesitant or reluctant to demit office?
There's a lot. In our ministry, the ex-ministers' families are over the place. From secretaries to accountants to architects to engineers to supervisors. In the other ministry that we inherited, which is housing, we have loads of people that have never turned up to work. And we are also dealing with that situation. We can't continue on that basis. And we just got a letter from one of the heads of the department that basically outlined to us the people that were there receiving salaries without ever showing up for work for years and years and years. And so those are the easy ones that you can deal with. We have approximately 320 employees at the Ministry of Works. I'm not even including the Ministry of Housing. Of those, 217 are open vote. Of those 217, there's a large amount that never showed up to work or come to work and do absolutely nothing. These are not public servants. And so we're not even addressing the public servants at all. We will respect that. I mean, they are within the system, and that is how I believe we should continue respecting the public service.
The new Foreign Affairs building, designed and constructed by International Environments with funds from the Taiwanese government, is being assessed for functionality since there was reportedly no consultation done to determine whether it would be able to house the number of staff, including those from foreign trade.
The new Foreign Affairs building, which was built by International Environments, perhaps under bill, has there been an assessment at this point to determine value for money in terms of what was invested in the construction of that edifice?
We haven't done a value for money. I've received a request by the minister to give him a hand professionally to look at specifically that. I have gotten some documents that the ministry itself is not happy with the building because it was not designed for their needs. And so right away we're looking at the functional aspect of a building, and they're saying that consultation was never done properly, so it is not designed in a way that is comfortable for them, one, and now they have more people coming in, meaning right now I think it's foreign affairs and foreign trade. So they have to find a way to make sure that everybody fits within that level. They're at that level right now. We will come in, as I said, to do a professional analysis and give our recommendations to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then the minister will take it from there.
When we come back, a fire in Orange Walk. Was it deliberately set?
Did you know that the other guy's truly unlimited data offer is not 100% LTE speeds at all times?
We are only as strong as
There was a fire on Stadium Street in Orange Walk on Friday. Police say that a resident reported that he was away from his property when he was informed that one of the unoccupied houses in his yard was on fire. ACP Joseph Maivet says that an investigation is ongoing as the owner believes his property was intentionally torched.
Julio Valerio reported to police that he had left his home shortly before that time to attend to some business at the Orange Walk police station when he received a call that one of his houses in his yard, which is a wooden house, was on fire. The police did visit the area along with the fire department. However, that building was completely destroyed by fire. Mr. Valerio is of the opinion that his building was set on fire. It is a matter under investigation by police at this time, but we do not have any suspect at this time.
Sir, did he report if he had any issues with anyone that would lead him to suspect that it's arson?
No, that information was not given to us.
So are you aware as to why he may believe that it is arson?
Well, he is saying that he did not left any equipment in use at the house, and I believe that house was not in use at the time.
A pair of robbers targeted the Be Well outlet in Ranchita village in Corozal on Friday. ACP Maivet says that the thieves held up the workers shortly after they opened for business just after 7 that morning. Police were called out to the scene at around 8.
The on-duty manager reported to police that upon opening the business sometime shortly after 7, himself and the secretary was there when they were approached by two dark-complexioned male persons on separate bicycles who entered the building and pointed a handgun at them and demanded money, which they complied and handed over an undisclosed amount of money. One of the other employees who was also present pursued those persons on bicycles and was later fired upon by those persons, and he abandoned the pursuit and thereafter called the police, who also visited the area. We have detained several persons pending this investigation so far, but they were interviewed and released whilst the investigation continues.
The price for premium gasoline will take a dip of 31 cents as of midnight tonight. The new price per gallon will be $9.18, down from $9.49. The price for regular gasoline, kerosene, and diesel will remain unchanged at $9.09, $5.73, and $8.11 per gallon, respectively. A release from the Ministry of Finance says that these price changes reflect current demand and supply conditions of crude oil in the international petroleum market and fluctuations in the acquisition price of refined fuel products in the countries from which Belize obtains its supplies. Coming up after the break, there will be an extended, will there be an extended curfew or lockdown on Christmas Day? We'll hear from Commissioner Williams. Earlier in the newscast, you heard that the Belize Police Department is cracking down on those who are violating the quarantine regulations. As the department juggles COVID-19 policing and their usual enforcement duties, we asked Commissioner Williams how they will police the upcoming holidays, considering that it's a time of festivities and parties for many. In light of that, we asked the commissioner whether he would recommend an adjustment of the curfew hours to stem those gatherings. Here's his response.
You know, Andrea, we're stretched extremely thin, and it is hard for us, but we see the importance of this, and so we are going to find the manpower to ensure that this is done. We understand that going into the Christmas holiday that some people are going to be themselves, in a sense that they're going to do what their mind is telling them to do and have these illegal events all over the country. And we, as a department, must do our part. The regulations are there for us to enforce. We have to find a way to ensure that there is compliance with the regulations. So for those days coming ahead, we are going to have officers out there ensuring that there is full compliance with the regulation.
Would you recommend that the curfew hours be amended for these days, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th?
Well, I see what is done in what has been done in Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean, where they are instituting a curfew for Christmas, Boxing Day, and even New Year's Day. Again, all with a view to ensure that there is limited movements by people during these times, as you know that the virus have no foot. So if it is that the government see the will to institute a curfew from a more earlier hour, I would welcome that, but that's a decision that the government will have to make.
From an adjustment on curfew hours for the holidays to a national lockdown, will it help Belize to address the growing number of COVID-19 cases? That's what one CEO believes. Over the weekend, CEO in the Ministry of Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, Kennedy Carrillo, called for one on Facebook. Carrillo wrote, quote, "The people are calling for a national lockdown. Lockdown equals containment," unquote. She went on to point out the various groups that are being affected by the lockdown to say, quote, "Our mothers and fathers are dying, or family members are suffering. The new strategy to scale up testing will be successful, but this strategy needs to happen in a controlled setting. The only setting that can provide this is at least a month lockdown," unquote. And so today, the Commissioner of Police was asked for his take on a national lockdown, considering that his officers are on the front line working to ensure that people adhere to these regulations.
One of the topics in the public discourse at this time is lockdown. And are you able to speak, I'm not sure, as to where you stand and if you perhaps have given any recommendations where that is concerned?
You see, Mr. Lopez, many of our people do not want to live under a lockdown. Many of our people complain just by hearing of a lockdown, while there are some who are calling for a lockdown. But my thing is that if it is that we do not want a lockdown, we can make sure there is none. We just simply need to adhere to the regulations, simple as that. The issue of lockdown is not one that I am going to speak to. It is a matter for the government to decide, and the government is going to decide that based on how the public respond to the regulations. But if it is that we do not want a lockdown, we want to enjoy moving around, then for Christ's sake, let us make some responsible decision in terms of how we do things and follow the regulations, and that's all we need to do. If we do that, we'll be in a better position than we are today.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.